Call to order for a Watertown City Council meeting for June 16th, 2025. First one ever in our new room. So please rise while Michelle Shuddy leads us in prayer. Please speak into the microphone just so that everyone on television can hear it. And if you could say maybe a nice word about blessing the new room.
Thank you. Father, we just thank you. We come together today in this room with this beautiful weather, this beautiful building that you've blessed us with as a city. I thank you for every member that is in this room that is going to be making decisions. I pray for strong clarity and wisdom as they make these decisions, and that we represent you as we have conversation around the room. I pray for the workers of the city, Lord, that we honor you with our work, that we are good stewards of not only this building, but all the departments throughout the city. I pray that we honor you tonight, Lord, and I thank you for this building again. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. And our flag is back there. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Interim City Manager Bob Zine, please call the roll.
Okay. Holeen.
Here.
Jurens.
Lynn was, I
He's
think he is
online,
online.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Peters?
Here.
Oh, there we go. Peters?
Here.
Shetty?
Here.
Tupper?
Here.
Bueller?
Here.
Danforth?
Here.
Thank you.
Quorum is established. Chair will entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda. Motion made by Councilman Tupper. Seconded by Councilman Bueller. And we'll go straight to open forum. Oh, actually, all those in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. All right, we'll go to open forum. If there is anyone here who would like to address the council on something that is not on today's agenda, please come and state your name, have a seat, and press the button until the red light flashes.
I'll learn to do this with you. Hi there. My name is Nick Phillips. I'm the EVP of External Affairs for Applied Digital. I was just stopping by today. We are currently looking at a potential facility down in Dual County. It's relatively close to here and also to Brookings. And we've got a facility up in Ellendale, which is experiencing a lot of contractors and construction folks who are living in those areas and, eating at restaurants and whatnot in Aberdeen, South Dakota, which is about the same distance to our Ellendale, North Dakota facility. So I thought I'd just come and say hello. If you aren't familiar with what we're up to, potentially down in Dual County, we're looking at building about 1.8 million square feet of data center space out near Toronto, just east of Toronto off of 29. And we're working on a few matters with the county on that as well as the state, and just thought it'd be great to come say hello. I do have a little handout here. There's a lot of questions that people are having about data centers and how will they positively or negatively impact us. This talks about just some of the reality of what we do when we're building these things and what it looks like to the community a little bit. And I wanted to make that available, and also my contact information if you'd like to chat more about what this may look like in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. If you would, you could pass them out to the council. We don't have a page system here, but if you would like to. All right, thank you, Mr. Phillips. Is there anyone else who would like to address the council in open forum? All right, hearing no one else, I will close the open forum and go straight into our agenda, starting with 8A, which is a follow-up report presentation on the downtown street sweeping discussion. So we welcome our street superintendent, Rob Bainan.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, let's see here. All right, let's see. I probably got to get this over a little closer so you guys can hear me. All right, I wanted to do a little follow-up about what we talked about in the May 12th council work session. concerning the downtown sweeping and no parking signage. If I can get this to work. There we go. During the May council work session, we discussed the problems that the street division staff continues to encounter with sweeping the downtown area. We've not been able to sweep very well due to the vehicles parked in the way, and the solution to the problem is to restrict parking at certain times to allow thorough street sweeping. It was requested that a poll of downtown businesses be taken to determine if they are in favor or not of no parking restrictions. Laura from our executive assistant, Public Works, reached out by phone calls, Facebook messages, and texts. The results of the poll, Laura attempted to contact 58 businesses in the downtown area. We had 29 respond to the poll, and every one of them were in full support of the no parking change, the signage, which at that meeting we had talked about changing from 6 a.m. or 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. So we did have it at 3 to 7, but we decided on the 4 to 6. One responded with no opinion, and we had 28 that did not answer or respond to the poll. She did leave messages as well on some of those that had voice message. Many did voice their opinion about enforcement is key to ensuring success with this. New downtown signage, the downtown streets. This would be what the sign would basically look like. No parking 4 to 6 a.m. on Wednesdays, May through October. And our avenues, will be installing signage that'll say no parking 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. on Thursdays, May through October. So everything in purple would, their avenues, so they will have the signage that covers Wednesdays, and everything in green streets would be, or I'm sorry, Wednesdays would be green and Thursdays would be purple. In those areas, as you can tell, it's just a downtown area that we're talking about. As far as parking goes, on the opposite days, of course, when it's street sweeping on avenues, you'll be able to park on streets, all the streets in the downtown area. Plus, there's 10 city parking lots downtown that folks can use as well. And like we've said, it's only 2 hours that we're restricting parking, but it's so we can get around where cars park. There's usually around 160 to 180 cars that we have to work around downtown. Steps moving forward, this is the steps will be taken as of starting tomorrow. We'll order signs tomorrow, and the company is saying about 4 weeks to get the signs. We'll proceed with an information campaign to educate the citizens on the changes we'll be having. So I'll work with Kelly on that, and we'll make sure the public's well informed ahead of time. While the information or the signs get installed, the information campaign will continue. And then when signs are installed, enforcement starts. The police will help educate the public as well, and then give warning tickets initially, and then that will transition into parking tickets, which currently are $15. So that is what we have. Short and sweet. Any questions?
Thank you, Superintendent Bainan. Do we have any questions from the council? I just wanted to say thank you for doing that, following up on it, and I hope that I heard that the downtown business owners were appreciative that we solicited their feedback.
Yeah, that's, Laura had talked to several people, and she had good feedback from the folks she talked to, so.
I know I talked with several, and they all said, yeah, just whatever you need to do a
Yeah.
better job.
Yeah, and I really do think this will help a lot. Once we get it implemented and get people used to, where to park, it'll be good. So, nice thing about this, the folks are able to park around the corner from where we're at. If they're furthest they'd have to walk probably is half a block, if even that. If it's an apartment on the corner, it's really the best case scenario. You park either way, just make sure you're on the right day.
Yeah.
So,
All right, thank you very much.
thanks.
Item 9A is an approval of a bid award for the sale of surplus property at 19th Street Northeast, Water Tower property, southernmost 15 feet, in the amount of roughly $7,000 to Lauren Wasland. Am I pronouncing that right? Lorene? Sorry. Thank you for that correction. That is what 9A is, and we will go to City Engineer Justin Peterson for more information.
Thank you, Mayor. If I can get my screen shared, there we go. So this is a 15-foot piece of property near the water tower on 19th Street. It went out, it was a piece surplus by the city council and offered for bid. We received one bid from Lorene Wasland and for $68.10, and we recommend award. Stand by for questions.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve the bid award? Motion made by Councilman Bueller, seconded by Councilman Peters. So open it up for questions, comments. Council? All right. Hearing no questions or comments, all those in favor of approving the bid award, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Item 10A is a first reading of an ordinance amending the zoning map of the city of Watertown, South Dakota for a portion of property to be known as the replats of lots 2, 3, and 4 Mansell Second Edition and lots 5A of Mansell Third Edition from R1 single-family residential to PUD Planned Unit Development District. We will go to, I'm sorry, Carla, what is your official title?
Urban plan.
Planner,
City Planner.
that's it.
We'll go to our city planner, Carla Hoyer, sorry.
Nailed it. All right, thank you so much, Mayor. So before you today is the rezone here for the Mansell PUD. So this rezone is going to encompass a portion of Lot 2A of the second edition that is proposed to be replatted with this rezone, and then Lot 5A of Mansell Third Edition, making for a total of 3.85 acres, so it's meeting that minimum 3-acre requirement for a planned unit development. On the planned unit development, it's proposing to have 8 units. That's going to be 2 structures with 4 units in each of them. Each unit is going to be available for individual ownership through the use of a condominium plat. The PUD is going to be securing the density of the 8 units within the area. So with 8 units, each unit would have 11,875 square feet, making it less dense than what would technically be allowed in the R1, which is its current zoning designation. And R1 allows for a minimum lot area to be 9,000 square feet. The design review team met and reviewed the PUD plan. Items that were addressed were the connection to sanitary sewer, and the water main going through South Lake Drive. Requested that each of those units have an individual hookup, which is showed on the plan. All the other items as far as the parking ordinance requirements, height and setback requirements, are meeting that of the R3 and then the R1. And the design review team all felt those made sense for what was being proposed. Outside of that, this rezone was recommended to the City Council with a vote of 6-1 by the Planning Commission at the June 5th meeting. And I'll stand by for any questions.
All right, thank you very much. This is the first reading, so there's no reason, we don't have to take official action on it, nor do I have to have a public hearing. I know that there's at least one person in the crowd that would probably like to testify, but I'm going to ask instead we're going to go to city council questions and comments first. Because I think that there might be some questions of clarification on behalf of the council. And I wanted to open that up first before I go to testimony in the audience, unless there is opposition from the council. All right, so we'll go to any questions or comments from the council. Councilman Danforth.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess a couple of questions that I have, maybe from staff, maybe from the developer, I'm not really sure. A lot of times what we get are a more definitive, more visual description of what the plan is. This one, and again, I don't know what requirements are for a PUD as far as documents are concerned, but so the one thing that I'm wondering here is what does this commit the developer to based on what we have in front of us and what we'll vote on in 2 weeks or whatever that is, the first meeting of July? What does that commit the developer to, Carla?
Yeah, thank you, Councilman Danforth. And really quick, IT, I'm afraid I'm not sure how to share my screen. I wasn't listening well during that tutorial. So if someone could come out, or otherwise, if you wouldn't mind just sharing there you go, thank you so much. But so on everything that they would be required to, or I'm sorry, everything they would be able to build is called out on the narrative here. So right now what they're proposing are the 4 plexes with the 8 units. They describe the height and the setback requirements. And yeah, everything basically called out on the proposed plan here is what they would be able to build. They mention the possibility of accessory structures. Those would be, again, regulated by the ordinance if the design review team or the architectural team in charge of the homeowners association would want to propose doing something. It would have to meet the requirements of our accessory structure regulations. But outside of that, everything everything on the plan and then everything written in the narrative is what they're able to build.
A follow-up?
Yeah, thank you. So they're showing 2 fourplexes here. First of all, I've been a proponent of the use of a PUD here, so I'm just trying to understand exactly where we're going with this. I think it's a great application for it. So we've got 2 fourplexes. So their denoted location here, is that where they then need to be located? Is approximately, I mean, I don't see any detail that shows exactly where they're at other than just a site plan, basic site plan. So this is where they would need to go.
Yep, that's correct. The plan is showing where those 2 buildings is going to be located.
Okay. The use or there's description in here about ancillary or auxiliary buildings. What could those be?
So really think anything accessory to a residential use, so they could technically potentially propose doing something along the lines of a shed or a garage if they were able to find space for it on the lot. From speaking with the applicant, it sounds like that would be more implying something more of like a recreational use of like a gazebo or something of that nature.
Okay. I think the neighbors would be most concerned probably with not a gazebo, but garages that aren't on the plan, storage sheds that aren't on the plan, which typically, historically, any plans I've seen on a PUD, those are included, and they are a part of what is approved. So if that type of facility or building structure were to want to be added later, what's the process for that?
With it being denoted in the narrative, it would really just be going through the design, whatever form of design review committee is formed by the homeowners association. It would have to get approval through there. And then outside of that, they would apply for a building permit through the city. And then we would review it through our regulations and approve or deny accordingly.
All for now, Mayor.
Councilman Peters?
Okay, there we go. Carla, another question for you, if you don't mind. I'm looking through this PUD, and I just want to make sure that I understand how the PUDs work here, because in some I've done, setbacks aren't necessarily, they don't need to be followed, they don't need to follow ordinance. You can kind of do whatever you want in a PUD so long as it's approved. But as I'm reading here, is it correct in saying that in the PUD, they're still going to follow the required setbacks that's in our ordinance for R3? And then I see some height structure requirements as well in R1. So essentially, they're following the setbacks that we have if it was regularly in R3. It's just in a PUD, is that right?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Shetty?
There we go. All right, thank you, Mayor. Just a question on being the R1 that it is currently, how many single-family units will be on this particular section of land where we got these 2 fourplexes going? How many single family units would go there?
I think altogether on the lot they're proposing, or the area they're proposing to rezone, they could do technically 18 single-family units. 18, technically, including the entire area. With the buildable area, so that they have approximately, sorry, one moment, I have this information. But let me look that up here really, really quick, if there's anybody else with another question.
You bet, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
And
Chris,
actually,
sorry.
I'm referring to, just the spot where these 2 fourplexes are, that particular area right there. How many single families would be right in that spot there, so.
I'll calculate that here really quick.
Well, if this is a first reading, we could talk about that next time around.
Yeah, we could
If
as
it's
well.
just a first reading, we don't need that tonight.
Councilman Tupper?
So if you were to take the R1, R2, R3, and PUD density, this would be the least density of all 4 of those, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Any further questions from council at this point? Follow-up, Councilman Shetty?
Actually, more of a clarification. My purpose of my question is, yes, if, just to compare the difference of an R1 to this PUD, what would be the difference in structure, number of structures and people living there as far as, that's my point on that. So anyway, that could be for the next meeting though as well. Thank you.
No, absolutely. And I have, Brandy went through and calculated some of the densities here. I'm not so good at the screen share, so I apologize. But, so looking at it here, it just kind of breaks it down with how many units could be based off of the bedrooms. So at the bottom here, highlighted in yellow, it says that for this lot, 18, there could technically be 18 lots, so that'd be 18 single-family dwelling units. The units that are being proposed are all individual units. So again, it would be 8 altogether.
All right, any further questions from the council? Okay, Councilman Tupper?
I know in all reality, nobody's going to build 18 residences there, but let's say they were built 10, then we would have 10 driveways, correct? Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to reverse it now and go to public hearing. I don't need to, but I do know that there's a proponent and at least an opponent, at least from tradition. Just if anyone is watching this for the first time, this is, I think, the 7th or 8th time that we've taken up a hearing upon this specific piece of land. And I'm not going to say that we've heard it all, because there certainly might be things that we haven't heard or are not aware of. But I do want to open it up to anybody, pro or con, on this potential development to come forward and say something. If you have things that we have heard before, I would just say, voice your opposition again. Just say, I am still opposed for the reasons cited previously, or I am still in favor for the reasons cited previously. But if there is something different this time around, which there is, then I would ask you to focus specifically on that. So, is there anyone who would like to testify on the proponent side?
Russell Warner, one of the partners in Camsco. So we're proposing the PUD like you see in front of us. And like Carla was saying, that in an R1 we could put 18 units, and we're proposing just 8 units or 8 addresses. The reason why we didn't go with an R2 in this scenario, which this would be acceptable as an R2, is because of the amount, or the potential amount of houses that could be there. I think it was, she had it up 30 some, and how the R3 proposal went, we didn't really understand what the maximum density is allowed in that area, so we're going with the most transparent option, is a PUD. And as far as accessory structures go, you could still apply for accessory structures with an R1, so that would still be an issue in the current zoning. As far as that goes, I don't have anything new to add to the discussion.
Thank you. And City Planner Hoyer, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but if someone does have a question, the ordinance governing accessory structures is 21.1002.
That is correct.
All right. So you can look that up in the ordinances if someone has a question, but it stipulates exactly what can and cannot be there, well established. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any further proponents to this? Any opponents?
My name is Ron DeVille. I live at 1062 South Lake Drive, right across the street from a lot of this, what's going on. I want to say that I'm completely against any projects over there in that slough area, but I don't think I'm going to get too far in there. But my deal is where's that channel at on that? We got that channel that
City
comes
Planner
from the
Hoyer,
lake.
Can you use your mouse to highlight the channel?
That's my concern. That other side has already got dirt, on the west side of that. On the other side across the road from me is a little slough and that sort of thing. But I want to know, how far does this go over? Does this take in any of that on the east side of that channel?
Oh, does the section in red take on anything on the
Yes.
east side of the channel?
Yes.
I'll let our city planner answer that.
And I can see if I can pull it up on GIS here, if it might be a little clearer. But the outlet should be right about in here, and then cuts through, and I believe comes
City
into
Engineer
here.
Peterson, do you happen to have further insight on this?
Excuse me, Mayor. One of the reasons I'm asking is because they were talking the last time, a little hearsay, that they need more room to do the PUD.
and they were talking all the way to the island, you know, so I wanna know how far over they're going. We can't do anything about this west side of the channel anymore. But now, are we jumping into the east side of that channel?
Engineer Peterson, were you about to say something?
There you go. If IT could share my screen, I can point out where the culvert. So it's kind of hard to see my mouse, but that's where the culvert is. The orange line here, that's the wetland delineation, and everything that's to the east of there is not going to be developed, and that's wetland, and everything to the west, that's
So where's the channel?
the development. The island is kind of right here,
Yeah, I understand.
and this is the
that,
culvert
yeah.
right here.
Because on the east side of that channel, you know, they're gonna have to fill that in if they do any building over there. I would think so, because they put all that dirt on the other side up. They're gonna, and then what are they gonna do with that little area there that's a little slough? But I've also heard that later on, they can go and play around with that with the Corps of Engineers and probably do something with that. So that's what my concern is. That's getting pretty close to my home.
Mayor, if I may?
Yep, please.
That is noted on the PUD narrative as well. They cite that whole area, so everything on the PUD plan outlined in that orange, that is going to be the wetland delineated area. They note on the PUD narrative that the channel, and so then encompassing that area, is going to remain undeveloped. So again, another kind of a perk of the PUD is that it will be, as called out on the PUD, holding it as undeveloped area. So if they wanted to come through and propose any development in there, not only would they have to get approval through the Corps, but they would have to go through City Council as well to update the PUD narrative.
So they can't build in there right now?
Correct. Well, I mean, technically, right now, as it's zoned, they
You got
could
it
go
right.
through the Corps and do it. If the PUD is approved, they would have to get approval first through City Council and then through the Corps of Engineers.
But I see you got your red line all the way over into that area.
Sure. Oh, yes. No, so for the PUD, they are required to have at least 3 acres of land.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
That's
so
why you
they're
grabbed that.
just utilizing that additional space as part of that 3-acre requirement. It's going to remain undeveloped.
That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further opposition? Any further opponents? All right, we'll close the hearing on that, move on to item 11A, which is an application for a special retail on-sale license to the Watertown Area Chamber of Commerce for Cookin' on Compesca at Stokes Thomas City Park on Thursday, July 17th. Interim City Manager Bob Zine, please
Okay.
tell us more.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, in front of the council is a special retail on-sale license for Cooking on Compessa. They've had this multiple years. Everything works well. The notice has been published and all fees have been paid. If there's any questions, I can help. Thanks.
Thank you. I'll open a public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to testify on this? I'll close the public hearing, go to council action. Can I get a motion to approve the application? Motion made by Councilman Tupper, seconded by Councilman Bueller. Any questions or comments? All right. Hearing none, the motion is to approve the application for Cookin' on Compesca. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Item 11B is a second reading of an ordinance zoning text amendments to Chapter 21.29, swimming pools in the revised ordinances of the City of Watertown. City Planner Hoyer, please explain this more to us.
All right, thank you very much, Mayor. So this ordinance came about through actually an item at the Board of Adjustment at the April 24th, 2025 Board of Adjustment meeting. There was a variance request that was denied by the board. Planning Commission then directed staff to do a little research and present a proposed update to the pool amendments. The last amendment to this section of the ordinance was done in 2005. Basically, the portion of the update that we focused on was regarding the barrier and fencing requirements. Currently, in our ordinance, you're required to have a 6-foot fence completely enclosing the pool. In the International Swimming Pool and Spa Code, you're required to have a barrier as well. If with your barrier, you also have a automatic pool cover, your fence is able to be 4 foot in height, along with some of those other safety requirements that we still have, the self-locking mechanisms. The city doesn't have the International Swimming Pool and Spa Code adopted. In our review of their regulations, found that to kind of combine both worlds, so we still have it in place. If you don't have a safety cover, you're required to have the 6-foot tall fence. If you have the safety cover in place, to the specs listed there, the ASTM 1346, then you're able to drop down to a 4-foot fence, just to be more in compliance with that section of the building code.
Thank you. I'll open a public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to testify on this item? I'll close the public hearing. Can I get a motion from the council to approve the amendment? Motion made by Councilman Shetty. Need a second? Seconded by Councilman Peters. Questions or comments? Councilman Danforth.
Carla, I don't know if you got copied on my email today, but I have a number of questions here. One of my questions is I'm not really sure what's driving this, other than I know we had an application. But the intent of these fences, no matter whether it comes from the building code or whether it comes from our ordinance, is what? It's to protect, it's a safety element, correct?
That's correct.
And who typically would that be? Who would we be trying to provide safety for?
Sure, I suppose just anyone who would be at risk of drowning hazard. Typically, that would be, smaller children.
Mostly children, typically. I'm getting to be the senior age, and I won't crawl over a 4-foot fence, so I'm assuming it's kids, right? So what is driving this request, other than we had a request for a variance?
Really, a lot of it was, the variance request just triggered our realization that this section had not been updated in a moment. Near the bottom of the background information, we cite specifically what the fence regulation is. Even on here, it's old enough that we don't include materials such as vinyl. We specifically just talk about mesh resistant material or non-climbable wooden fences. So really just an update to better match what our current standards are. Things like pool covers or not what our current standards are, I'm sorry, what the current building code regulations are.
So we allow going from a 6-foot to a 4-foot fence if they have the motorized pool cover. What if they don't use it?
Then they don't, everything in Watertown is, not everything, but a lot of our ordinances are very complaint-based, so it wouldn't be any different than if I tied my gate open to my 6-foot tall fence. It's just a matter of, that's the requirement, they should be utilizing it. If we find out that they're not utilizing it, code enforcement would act accordingly.
I'll give up for now, Mayor. I'll come back here in a little bit.
Right. Any further questions or comments? Councilman Shetty.
Thank you, Mayor. That was one of my concerns as well as Councilman Danforth. However, you've got these codes that have been written, you gotta trust the ASTM organization or whomever, they've done their research. So it's the challenge is, well, do you just go with what they're saying? But in my my limited understanding, the 4 versus 6, it's like, why not keep it at 6 foot? Just for an added safety value. Though, so that's kind of the thought that I've been kind of hashing around myself as well. So any input from anybody else would help that decision.
Thank you. Out of curiosity, do you know a ballpark number of how many swimming pools we have in town?
I do not. I don't feel like, that's kind of one of the things we realized too when this came up, is that it just hasn't been reviewed in a while because we don't have to issue a lot of permits for swimming pools in general. So no, I don't know off the top of my head, but not very many that this has only recently come into light with the recent swimming pool application.
Okay. I guess I can see Councilman Danforth's point. If this is based upon one issue, it seems a little excessive to change the ordinance, but also if there's not that many swimming pools in the community, it's not like it's a widespread change of ordinance or that it's going to affect a whole lot of people. Councilman Danforth?
Well, here's my deal. To be honest, this is all about safety. There's a number of things on the building code that we don't adopt. Most of it we do. There's some things we don't, at least historically. And as I look at it, and maybe I'm being a little too cautious here, I don't see the value of it if I have a 6-foot fence or a 4-foot fence. I don't know, is it a cost issue? What is it? I'm not really sure. The last thing I want to do when I'm off this council in a couple of weeks is to look back a year, 2 years from now and see where some little child jumped a 4-foot fence. I've got a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old grandchildren. And I will tell you, a 4-foot fence isn't going to stop them right now. They're going to go. And they don't have the mental capability to discern what's on the other side and what that pool might be. A 6-foot fence is going to provide a barrier to them. It's going to be something that they aren't going to, maybe if they're 10 or 12 or a teenager, but at that point at least they've got more mental capacity than they have today. I don't want to look back in some time and go, I voted to reduce that fence down to 4 foot, and some little child, one little child is all it takes, that drowned in somebody's pool because they weren't outside and they didn't put the cover on. So I'm opposed to it because there's no reason for it. Nobody's given me a reason to change other than some federal ordinance specification, whatever it is, but there's no reason for it. We've had one application for it. I don't care how many pools we have, and I think there's probably more than what we think there are, but that doesn't give me justification for changing. So I will be voting no on this, and purely from a child protection standpoint. I don't believe it's necessary. There's been no reason to change, so that's where my vote will be.
Councilman Tupper.
Irregardless, they have to have a fence, right, whether it's 4 foot or 6 foot. And I would have to agree with Councilman Danforth that I think it's kind of a mute issue that we're changing just because it's in a national regulation. I would just soon feel better, safe than sorry, that we were still required a 6-foot fence. So there's not that many. I'd hate to change the ordinance just for one, and I would feel a lot safer knowing that it's a 6-foot fence. We wouldn't put a 4-foot fence around our swimming pool that the city owns. So
That'd be quite the pool cover.
yeah. Irregardless whether it's got a pool cover or not, that's the responsibility of the owner. But if we can save one child's life someplace down the road with 2 foot more fence, I'm gonna probably not support this, so.
Councilman Beeler.
Thank you, Mayor. City Planner Hoyer, would somebody be out of compliance if they had a 4-foot fence, if we did this, and they didn't have the cover on? If the cover was off, even though they have one, but it's not on the pool?
Yeah, if the pool wasn't in operation and it was left uncovered, they would be out of compliance.
Thank you.
All right. Any further questions or comments? Councilman Peters.
I would just add in here, the language I'm looking at here is that it says, it shall not be less than 48 inches. And so somebody still has the autonomy to still build a higher fence. It's just allowing it to be a little bit shorter if that's what they choose. So I would just make a clarification on the language. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? And I'm still kind of thinking this through. I can't hit the pause button on this, because I can see, on one hand, I'm wondering why are we changing something? Doesn't seem broken, but at the other hand, if there's international rules that govern all pools and spas that is accepted by the entire United States and every state, what we're all having here is above and beyond what already exists in codes. And I know that it's a tragedy whenever any accident occurs, but a lot of that is on the responsibility of the homeowner. I don't think we don't have fences around trampolines, and I know trampolines cause a whole lot of accidents in this community. I mean, and that's just one example, and I'm not trying to be facetious, but it's, at what point do you have a, parent state telling people exactly what to do, and at one point do you have to trust who owns their property and what they're going to do with it? So I guess I'm probably gonna vote in favor of it, just because if I don't own a pool, I don't ever want to own a pool, but if there is some reason that I'm not aware of, like there is for one person, allows some flexibility, I guess I can get behind that.
And then,
City
Mayor,
Clerk.
if I may, I realize I didn't really answer Councilman Tupper's question, so I apologize. But, again, going back, it's either the 6 foot if you don't have the cover, and then the 4 foot if you do. In staff's research, we found that a lot of the other communities in the area have gone down to that same standard as issued by dictated by the International Swimming Pool and Spa Code, that if you have that automatic barrier, you can go down to the 4 foot fence. That's one of the things that kind of, again, sparked the research into it, was just realizing that other communities have adopted that more current standard.
All right. Council, I'm getting some texts, as usually happens during a meeting, but some of these are coming from our IT director, Peter Boyle, and he's telling me for everyone speaking to make sure you're very close to the microphone. It's some growing pains the first time in this facility, and we're not hearing everyone as clearly as what we are used to, and we're just gonna try a little bit of an experiment, so if you could lean in and articulate, and we'll give that a try and see, and I'm sure we won't iron this out completely tonight or even at the next meeting, but just wanted to mention that. So we're gonna go to Councilman Tupper, then Peters, then Danforth. Councilman Tupper.
First, I gotta figure out how to turn it on, so if they don't have a cover, then they have to have a 6 foot fence, correct? Is that what you were clarifying?
Yep, that is correct. And actually, in the international code that we reference in the background information, if you have the automatic cover, you're not required to have any other additional type of fence seen. Our standard would still be higher than that of, the international, what would that even acronym be? The ISPSC. Our standards would still be higher than that, and that, along with the barrier, we would also require the 4 foot fence.
What does ISPSC stand for? I thought I'm just kidding.
International Swimming Pool and Spa Code.
Councilman Danforth.
Thank you. Not that it matters, I think probably most have their minds made up on this, but I'm just gonna read just a little something here. Annually, 400 children under the age of 14 drown in pools and spas in the United States. Of that, a majority of those 400 are in residential pools. Of those that die in residential pools, vast majority are children under the age of 3. So it's real. And to make this change because of whatever this standard is that exists out there, it seems very odd to me. that we're just arbitrarily doing that. Because if that's the case, we probably have a lot of ordinances we should be looking at, or requirements. But, well, I'll leave it at that. I don't see the reason for it. There's not a justification other than this is a standard. It's a convenience issue, it's a want issue, it isn't a need issue. Hard to justify.
Councilman Shetty.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilman Peters made a good point that, you know, they don't have to, they can make it 6 foot if they'd like. Part of this is, as Mayor Helene said, that we're trusting the homeowner to utilize their equipment the way it's specified, putting the cover on. And so if they have the cover on, the 4-foot fence is, well, you can almost have no fence basically because the cover is supposed to protect. So are we going to trust, I'm still thinking this through out loud, so I'm not taking a stance per se yet, but if we're trusting the homeowner to utilize the cover, well, we're approving the 4-foot fence potentially with them using the pool cover. So technically, we're not at fault by making a wrong decision if we, let's say, voted for this, because we're saying, yes, you can do a 4-foot fence if you're using your pool cover. If they choose not to use the pool cover and there is sadly an accident that happens, well, that wasn't on us per se because our decision was based off them using the pool cover. However, as Councilman Danforth is saying, do we need to be a little extra step as a city to help keep this from being an issue by making it 4 foot? I mean, there's wisdom in that too. So this is one of those that we can go either way. But that's where I'm at in thinking through this. So, thank you.
I'll weigh in. Councilman Danforth, you make a very good point. And I'm still kind of thinking this through in my head because you're right that it is weird to be changing a rule over one, but at the same time, I am wondering where does it stop because, like, I'm not going to look up any statistics or anything, but I do know that you're more likely to be killed by a gun that you own than by a gun somebody else owns. Because if you got a gun in the house and you're in an argument or you're intoxicated, bad things happen when you have live ammo and guns in a house. But we're not banning guns, nor are we allowing, you know, that you have to have them in safes. And I know that can be a reach, but at what point do you empower citizens with the rights that they have, and at what point does it stop? I would ask our city attorney, but it's more of a rhetorical question because if you have a swimming pool and you allow kids to swim in it, that's your responsibility then. But let's say if someone were to break into your backyard to swim, then that's on them, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it would be the homeowner's responsibility. I think the other thing too, you know, obviously, and again, it's entirely the council's discretion. The International Building Code and the long acronym that our lovely urban planner mentioned earlier about pools are really their, what I'm gonna call suggestions. That's their proposed, this is what we think it should be. But every municipality tweaks them here and there, and we've done it before with our building codes, just things that don't suit our environment. So it's really a, you know, I don't wanna say completely discretionary, but it's really within the purview of the council to, you know, just evaluate and consider and decide what they wanna do.
Yeah.
But yes, it is on the homeowner.
Well, and I hope people take my comments in the spirit of what I'm meaning. I'm truly am trying to come up with the best decision that I can for my own conscience because I can definitely see Councilman Danforth's point. It's a great point. And at the same time, I also weigh what I would say my conservative values across the board are as far as where do you stop. I could also say I know that children have drowned in Compesca and other places. You know, you could put up a fence around anybody who lives at Compesca. I mean, again, that's probably far-fetched, but it's like the principle is the same. So I think, Councilman Danforth, you make a great point, and I'm not going to have any problem with anybody who votes for it or against it. I guess I'll vote for it. but. Any further questions or comments? All right, then we will go to vote. If you are in favor of allowing the fence to go down to 4 feet, then you're going to vote aye. If you are against that, you're going to vote no. Okay? So, all those in favor of the amendment will vote aye. Opposed, say nay. Interim City Manager Bob Zine?
Okay. Helene?
Aye.
Jurens?
Aye.
Peters?
Aye.
Shetty?
Nay.
Tupper?
Nay.
Bueller? Danforth?
Nay.
Motion fails.
Motion fails. We're on to item 11C, an approval of a resolution vacating a portion of the public right-of-way of 4th Street Southeast between 10th Avenue Southeast and 11th Avenue Southeast. We'll go to our community planner, Carla Hoyer, or city planner.
And I'll actually.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, city engineer Justin Peterson. And Brandy, I know you're listening, so I didn't call on you.
Thank you, Mayor. So, this area is by Buffalo Ridge Concrete, which is the highlighted in, what is that color? Bluish? Teal, yes. They own both sides of 4th Street southeast. And the portion in red is the area that has been petitioned to be vacated. As part of this vacation, there will be a drainage easement on the west side of the property here. This item was tabled at the last meeting, and there was some discussion about 10th Avenue in this vicinity right here. That area was actually vacated back in 1970. We did talk to the applicant who's here today, and they have expressed that they oppose that 10th Avenue, kind of like a swap, I think was what the discussion was last time. I guess with that, we'll stand by for questions, and if there's, like I said, the petitioner is here, if there's any questions for them as well. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll open a public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to testify on this item? You don't have to, but it's, if you could just say who you are, just so in case we have any questions, we would know who to address them to.
Thank you, council, and everybody here. My name is Chris Jacobson. I'm the area manager for Buffalo Ridge Concrete.
All right, and Buffalo Ridge Concrete is the petitioner asking for the vacation of the street, so thank you. And you can stand by. I'm not sure if there will be any questions, but thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to testify at this? I'll close the public hearing, open for council action. Can I get a motion to approve the resolution? Motion made by Councilman Peters, seconded by Councilman Shetty. Let's open it up, council. Any questions, comments? Councilman Tupper.
So I remember with the previous owners, and it's been a number of years ago, and that was a question I had last time, and I went back and tried to do some research, and I cannot find anything. I'm just gonna ask my fellow council members if they can recollect why we denied this in the past. Anybody? It was denied one other time, a few years back, so.
Councilman Danforth or City Engineer Peterson might know. Councilman Danforth?
This was with the previous
Yeah,
owner.
previous owners.
That goes back a long way. The reason why was the city didn't want to give up the right of way. If you look at the development in this area, what's happened over the last 20 or 25 years in this part of town, you know, we've got development to the north, we got all that development that's to the east of that has occurred. the lots that go back, I don't know if those are platted lots or not, but all these little orange lines here, are those platted lots? Justin, they are, aren't they? And so the question is, once we give it up, it's lost. And at the time, Mr. Tupper, there was a lot of discussion about doing a swap per se that said, okay, let's get back 10th Avenue, that is to the north of this property. Let's get that back so that could feed that development as it goes east or westward and potentially to the south someday. And then we'll forego so basically a swap of right-of-ways, recreate one. And the decision at that time was that they didn't want to do that. And so it was voted down at that time. Shortly thereafter, and I'm not sure how this happened, shortly thereafter, they constructed the conveyor. And that, I don't know how it happened. I don't know how it was allowed to stay. It's illegal as it sits today. But anyway, it was because the desire at the time was to do a swap to get 10th to facilitate some future development if and when that ever occurred, because of the platted lots and such that are back there.
Councilman Beeler.
I'll chime in on that as well. I recall that we wanted the opportunity to maintain that in case we did development and we felt we needed to put a road in there. That's what I recall from this way back when.
Councilman Tupper, back to you. Okay. Councilman Shetty?
All right, yes. So just clarify for me if someone could. To the north, there is now the parking lot for probably Wendy's or something there. Can we even put a road in there anymore, I guess is what I'm wondering on that portion of it. Then to the south of this 4th Street, yeah, right there. Is that, so we still have the ability to utilize that the way it looks if we want, because there are, back to the west, you see there's 3 lots down there just south. Yeah, right there to the south there. Those 3. The only way to get to those would be if we utilized, from what it looks to me, if we utilized that avenue. It looks like it maybe.
It's 11th Avenue.
11th Avenue, does that break up that property then? I guess these are my questions on how we can make sure, yeah, we've got this thought through, which I would assume staff's thought it through, but I'm just, for me personally, to get the clarification, so.
And I can let Mr. Jacobson answer as well. I actually did drive out there today and talk with several people at Buffalo Ridge Concrete. I also talked with Phyllis Wiles, who was the one person who testified at the Board of Adjustment meeting where this was brought up, who was just concerned about it. But Mr. Jacobson, correct me if I'm wrong, but the plan is to keep 11th Avenue open because that would be the conduit to develop those properties to the west.
That is correct. Both 11th and 12th down below to the north of the movie theater property are both still accessible to going east and west, yes. And to my understanding anyway, those lots that we're referring to directly to the west of our ready mix plant there, that's all wetland for the most part, and the thinking is that at least the north parts of those lots up there that you have by your cursor there probably would never get developed. The potential of those 3 lots to the south of your cursor there may at some point in time, and that's why we feel that if you have access off 11th and 12th, the fire department has multiple accesses, people have multiple accesses to gain entrance into those developable lots. From our standpoint, the road that we're asking to vacate, part of the reason why Phyllis's husband helped facilitate the vacation of 10th back when was that with the amount of traffic that you get coming in for aggregates and mixer trucks and stuff like that, trying to get onto 81 off of 10th, especially if you need to turn right onto Highway 212 to try to cross 3 lanes of traffic within a block, is a safety concern, obviously, but then also to have traffic flowing through the lot as close to our building as it is, and we have aggregate trucks and things going around to the north side of our office building there. It would be a pretty high safety concern that we would have, just to be having traffic flow through there. So it's more of a safety concern that we're asking to close that block of Fourth Avenue. I mean, we actually own the property on both sides, and then we own the property down to the south there as well. And then the movie theater property is the property that adjoins 81. But we feel with keeping 11th and 12th open, the lots that are to the west of us still have dual access. And in talking with the fire marshal and stuff, he kind of reiterated the same thing. So it's the city doesn't, you know, the road, the hard surface road stops a little bit north of where our property starts. And to my knowledge, from what we've heard from the Jacobsons, the people that we purchased the property from, the city doesn't maintain the road going through our property. They don't treat it as a road. As long as at least Terra's ran the facility or whatever, they haven't, it's just been part of, you know, it's been a pseudo part of their property. And we, unfortunately, you know, the way that our yard is constructed and the way that our businesses ran, we treat it the same way. So there's a lot of cross traffic coming through there with aggregate semis and mixer trucks that are coming through the yard in different directions and stuff like that. And to be able to have public traffic coming down that road, especially if there's an aggregate truck up on top of the hill where they're dumping, and then they come down that hill, and if there's a car coming from the north to the south, the chance of having an accident there was pretty high. Just because there's limited visibility coming down from that hill where the rock and the sand are dumped. And we are the first people that don't want an incident there. But we don't want to, you know, if it were to remain a city street, we don't want liability on your end either. So I guess the part of why we're asking is we're trying to minimize things from both ways.
Thank you. When I talked with Wes Carr out there today, he was saying really the only traffic you get out there are people who should not be driving the speeds that they are and with the attitude that they are, because it usually comes.
We get a lot of UPS drivers and people that if they're going east on Highway 212 and if the light turns red, a lot of times they'll divert down south and then actually cut through our yard and then jump out onto 81 because they were trying to turn right and the light turned red. So they'll come down and cut through our yard at a rapid pace actually and go around the building and then exit out on 11th and head south or whatever. And we just, you know, part of that is to minimize that. You know, I have had conversation with Phyllis and her daughter as well. And we're more than willing to work with her to help her get access out. I mean, her big concern was, you know, she doesn't want to try to pull, you know, with a pickup in a trailer when she's hauling flowers and, you know, going to an event or whatever to try to turn north off, you know, off 4th onto Highway 212. And we have no problem working with her, you know, to gain her access through there, you know, because a lot of her travel is, you know, after hours and on weekends. And that's perfectly fine.
Councilman Tupper.
So this question's for City Engineer Peterson. Those lots to the south that we're wondering about access to, they still have access on 3rd Street, or, yeah, 3rd Street, correct? If they were ever developed?
Yes, there's 3rd Street right away is still platted, and then this is 11th Avenue is platted.
So we're not landlocking them, so.
Correct.
Thank you.
Who said mayor? I thought I heard someone. Okay, sorry. Echo chamber in here, sorry. Any further questions or comments? Councilman Danforth.
So, Mr. Jacobson, this is just a safety issue of stopping people from going through, correct?
Yes.
Is there any other plans for use of that other than what is being to us for today?
Not knowing what the future brings, I guess, and I think Wes alluded to this with Mayor Helene when he was out at the property, you know, I mean, if we, typically when we move into a community, the goal is to, you know, to build the business and we may, do something on that property that, you know, not knowing exactly what it is. A short answer to your question is yes, it's a safety concern right now, but I mean, if we decide to construct a new facility there, we're gonna, just for what we do as a business, we're gonna need the whole property. So it serves by, you know, if we were to take the road out of there, basically, it would allow us to do improvements that we'd want to do in the future, potentially, but not limit us on what we were able to do because there's a road right away going through there. As it is with the plant on the one piece of property to the west and the office and the batch room to the piece on the east, it's constant traffic through there, whether it's foot traffic, which is even more of a problem if there's traffic coming down that road, but it's also continual truck traffic through there. So yes, the short answer to your question, Councilman Danforth, yeah, it's a safety issue.
Any further questions or comments? The motion is to approve the resolution of the vacation of the public right-of-way. If you are in favor of that, you will vote aye. If you are against that, you will vote nay. Interim City Manager Bob Zine, please call the roll.
Okay. Helene?
Aye.
Jurgens?
Aye.
Peters?
Aye.
Shetty?
Aye.
Tupper?
Aye.
Bueller? Danforth? Motion carries.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
We are on to other business. Is there any other business tonight? All right, we are on to city member council announcements. I will do one on behalf of the community. Tomorrow is election day here in Watertown. Please get out and vote. Take a stand in your local government, get out and vote. And it is at the school or school arena, the civic arena. Okay, so go to the school. Go to the high school. Okay, because every election I get questions thinking it might be out at the extension building or where it's at every single year. So just go to the school. And I think it starts probably at 7 to 7. 7 to 7 at the school. Get out and vote tomorrow. Thank you. Any other announcements? Councilman Tupper.
Well, you can't believe I'm not gonna make an announcement about fireworks, can ya? Been kind of a busy couple of weeks here, so I'm gonna lean on the mayor here the next couple of weeks to help me a little more than what he normally does, but we're gonna be reaching out to the community as we're gonna have our annual 4th of July fireworks display at Anza Soccer Field. Day will start off at about 5:30 with inflatables. We'll have music. It'll be a fun time for all the people. It draws a huge crowd. I mean, I think we estimated 10 to 12,000 people last year. Just a great time for the family. Anza Soccer Field will be an alcohol-free facility for those that choose to have a adult beverage. They can watch it from Premier Softball Field. Both those places will be packed. I lean a lot on the city departments to help me. I don't think there's hardly any of them that I don't touch to help me pull it off, and I couldn't thank them enough for all their help in that. Look for good time again. On the 3rd, being it is illegal, and if that was on the consent agenda, both is permitted tonight, being that it is against the law in the city of Watertown to shoot fireworks within the city limits, we do allow on the 3rd, if anybody has fireworks that wants to go to the Premier Softball Field, we'll have shooting stations set up, and they will be allowed to shoot the fireworks off there. So if you got some, make the cops' night easy and come down there and enjoy it. Not everybody listens. Tim's over there, big smile and a little chuckle, but just, it's a great weekend. So let's go out and have a lot of fun, but we are gonna be making some phone calls and knocking on some doors to raise some money so we can make this a huge show, as we always do. largest fireworks display in the state of South Dakota. So I'd like to thank everybody for their help.
And thank you, Councilman Tupper. And just to explain to people, because I'm thinking a lot of people might not know, but the city of Watertown places on an expenditure a lot of money every year to help fund the fireworks show and the family fun at Anza Soccer Complex. But to make it the best show in South Dakota, Councilman Tupper, mostly, me just a little bit, have gone out and raised some extra money to make sure that it is the biggest, largest show in South Dakota, above and beyond what the city devotes to it. So that explains why we do need these private donations. So please, open your heart, open your checkbook for the community. Also, just to make something clear, I got a question from my friend at KXLG, Steve Jerns. There is a question. People probably would wonder, the show is not going to be put on by Lou's Fireworks at Dan Ratterschat this year. They're out of the display business. They are still in retail, but they are no longer in the display business. But some of the people who have been working for Lou's Fireworks for the last several years, in particular Jeff Bendix, who has done thousands of shows, Jeff is still doing the show. So if you are questioning, whatever happened to Lou's, that's just what's happening. So just transition a little bit in their business. Just to clarify that for the community, we want to thank the Ratterschats for all the work that they've done on behalf of Watertown. We thank the Bendixes for coming forward and everyone who helps put on the show.
The show on the 3rd, that will be staffed by myself and a bunch of people from Lou's Fireworks that always come out and give their time. But I just want a big shout out to the last 4 years to the community after I kind of took this over from the chamber. That's a great thing about Watertown, and I've said that many, many a times. I go beating on doors, they just kind of see me coming and what now, but they're always willing to help, and I couldn't say enough about the private individuals and the businesses in Watertown that always willing to help out with things like that. So that's what makes this town so great and makes this job so easy, so thank you.
And Councilman Bueller will be singing the national anthem, I think. All right. Any further council announcements?
I do have.
Councilman Bueller.
Oh, sorry. I want a kudos to Randy. I mean, you've worked really hard on this thing every year. It's not something you had to do, but you've done it, and you've made it successful every year. And it's been a great event for Watertown. All right. Thank you.
Councilman Danforth.
I don't like where the light's on it, I can't see it. So, Mayor, I just want to make a comment. I had my opportunity today to walk through our recently opened new city hall here. This has really turned out wonderful for our community. I hope people take the time to come see it at some point. They should be very proud of what this is. It's absolutely beautiful. It turned out well. This is going to be here for us for a long time. So I just want to kudos to everybody that worked on this and supported this. It really has turned out nice. I'm very proud of it.
The official public open house for this is not going to be for a little while yet, though. So wait for the official public open house when you can walk through and see everything. If you came now, you'd probably be limited to the lobby. But by all means, if you want to come and take a look, you sure can. Any further council announcements? Any interim city manager report? There is no reason to go into executive session. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion made by Councilman Tupper, seconded by Councilman Bueller. Actually, I'm going to ask Councilman Bueller, would you like to make that motion, and Councilman Danforth, you second it? Sure. This is your last chance to ever adjourn. But you won't be around for the adjournment.
Oh, that's right. Well, how come Bueller goes first? Bueller. So I'll second that.
Okay.
I would make a motion that we adjourn.
Okay. I will say a joint motion to adjourn.
There we go. We got it.
All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
Nay. I want to keep them here.
Motion carries. Good night and God bless you, Watertown.